Welcome to the 20 Years of Morrowind podcast. Morrowind is a shared journey that we took on our own, and today we'll discover one such journey. My guest is DarkElfGuy, Morrowind Modding Showcase host, modder, and genuine pillar of the Morrowind community. DarkElfGuy, welcome on in.
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. We're recording this in the morning, so relatively wide awake.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the good news is I only have one question for you. The bad news is it's a massive question. I want to know about your Morrowind journey, how it started, what happened along the way, where it took you, all of that.
Well, that is a very long journey. I mean, it's been, almost 20 years. We're recording this in April. It'll be 20 years next month. And I guess my Morrowind journey technically began, I think, in the summer of 2002. My first experience with Morrowind was actually watching my friend play it. That's something I did a lot back then. I was 12 years old. I'd go over to a friend's house, watch them play a game. And usually I didn't really feel any particular need to actually play the game that they were playing. Watching was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But Morrowind was kind of a game that was unlike anything else I had ever experienced. Before Morrowind, my only real experience with video games were, worlds that had limits, that had borders, Spyro the Dragon, a game that was, contained in a limited play space.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have any experience with open world games, and really the concept was completely foreign to me. A world where you could just go wherever you want with no boundaries, that was crazy. So seeing my friend just walk into random interiors, pick up bottles, just pick up random bottles. Can you imagine the level of interactivity to be able to just pick up random items that are just strewn about? I had never seen a game like that. And that got me just intensely curious, so I ended up buying Morrowind on the PC. It didn't actually run on my computer. I had a Millennium Compact at the time, which was, that was just a terrible computer. It couldn't run anything. So I had to actually play it on my mother's Windows 98 PC. Which lagged like crazy. When Solstein, the Blood Moon expansion came out in 2003, I got a frame rate of 8 FPS when it was snowing.
Yeah, especially with the snow. You say 8 FPS. Today, sometimes I go to Balmora and I get 8 FPS. Things haven't changed so much, apparently.
Oh yeah, the years and the decades can change on the calendar, but it's always going to be the exact same issues, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So when you played the game, what did you enjoy the most?
Honestly, the freedom of exploration. That was again my first open world, role-playing game. The ability to go anywhere, do anything. That was I got pretty addicted to Morrowind for a while there, just going everywhere. I'd have the paper map out, and I'd be like, okay, so I haven't been to this corner, and is that a cave? How the paper map had all those little details just, hidden in there that you could use to find things?
And the best part about it is that there was a lot on the map, but not everything was there. So even though you were using the map, you could still come across a cave, a ruin, something that you were not expecting.
Oh yeah, but it was still great for navigation. You could see various valleys and things where there could be something hidden, and you could use that to navigate. And I just I'd have a paper map just off to the side that I'd just constantly reference, and that is kind of a thing that I guess players today probably don't really experience. The games on Steam, they don't get the paper map when they buy the game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a lost experience, because I think that's, one of my fondest memories, really, of Morrowind is, referencing the paper map and finding things in the actual game.
Mm-hmm. That's why, the maps, the original maps from the game, they're like treasures. People who still have their map, they're like, this is my Morrowind map, and it might even be on their wall after 20 years.
Oh yeah. And I still have my paper maps. I've got about half a dozen, paper Morrowind maps from the various copies of Morrowind I bought over the years. Like I still got that in my desk drawer, just right here off to the side.
And was there something that really, really amazed you while you were exploring?
Oh, I mean, Morrowind is a very alien game. Like when you're first experiencing it, like everything's kind of a little bit amazing because it's so foreign and unfamiliar. Like your first time running into Nick sound, that's pretty crazy. That's a well, I don't know if I'd say an amazing experience, maybe a terrifying experience. Like most of the animal life in Morrowind is like, what's this?
What the heck is that? And then you kill it, and then you approach carefully, and you look around, and try to work out what sort of creature it is.
Yeah, and I'd say one of the most amazing experiences I think I had while exploring was probably finding that one Velothi tomb. There's kind of a quest that leads you to it. The one with the longboat at the end. Full of treasure. Like I stumbled upon that. I didn't run into the quest took for that. I was just out exploring the Azurian coast region, and ran into that tomb. There was a maze you had to go through, and then at the end you had that longboat, and that was an experience that I was totally unexpecting, but it was just so neat to stumble upon.
Confession, I don't think I've ever found that one. There you go, 20 years later, new goal.
Really, I'm surprised. There's a quest hook, I think, in one of the taverns in Vivek, like a Nord will mention some tomb out in the Azura's coast region, and it's one of the best dungeons, I think, in Vanilla Morrowind. Right up there with Arkenthant in terms of design, which you can't really say a lot about some of Morrowind's dungeons.
True. No, I think I'll have to go and look for this one. The more you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff scattered about. It can be difficult to find all of it.
Definitely, and especially when you have a lot of mods, it happens to me all the time. I see something and I go, that's neat. What mod is that? And then I use the console to find the origin, and it says Morrowind. I go, this is vanilla. I had never seen it before.
Yeah, I had that experience a few months ago. It was like a cave-in, like we were doing a showcase for one of SVNR's cavern replaces, and I just happened to rotate the camera up above a smuggler's cave that I'd been in 1,000 times before, and it's like, wait a minute, how long has this hidden loot cache been up here?
Yep. I know the feeling. Like even the very first smuggler's cave close to Seidanin, there's the one throwing kiting, throwing stars at you, and there's that little nook, and you can go, and there's the water and everything. I discovered that years later. Like I've been in there so many times, and I never knew that there was an underground passage with a water that connected back to the entrance.
Yeah, I think it was maybe my 6th or 7th time through before I noticed that, because that gate, that little passageway that they crafted there is just so well hidden.
Yeah.
And it kind of just takes you right back to the entrance, sort of like a Skyrim dungeon. Like maybe that was the origin of that.
Could be. It could be. But because you had all these crates on the right-hand side, and you go, yes, loot. You take your loot, and then you go back.
Yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount of loot in that hidden cavern part. There's
no. It's easy. There's a pauldron, a torch, a ring, mushroom, a rat, a potion of water breathing. That's it.
Isn't there a couple gold coins?
Oh yes.
Like
There's a couple. Hang on. Yes, next to the ring, there's a few septims there for the taking.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, it's been a little while, but I played through that dungeon a fair number of times, just for showcasing purposes, so I was thinking there was gold there.
Mm-hmm. So now we've spoiled the dungeon for many people who didn't know there was an extra passage.
Yes, spoiler alert for 20 years ago, for the very first dungeon you come across.
I wouldn't be surprised that some people go, really? Like, honestly. That's the beauty of Morrowind. There's so much to it. You never quite do everything in Morrowind.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean, I've only done the main quest like twice, and I'm sure there's, things I've missed.
For sure, for sure. And then of course when you add mods into the mix, it changes everything. When did you fall into the modding scene?
So I started modding in December 2003. My first mod was a very simple convenience fast travel mod, Temple Teleports, which
Mm-hmm.
was basically, you add in like guild guides to the tribunal temples, and you could just fast travel between all those. It was a very quick, kind of not very well put together CS edit mod. It had a lot of issues, like a lot of the travel markers, because I wasn't used to using the CS. Like a lot of the travel markers just go to a random part in the temple instead of right next to the guild guide.
Uh-huh.
It was, a bit of a disaster. But all of my mods back then were. I released about a dozen more mods between 2004 and 2005, and they were all just one variety of terrible or other, I ended up deleting most of them except Temple Teleports. The thing that stopped me was, like, I got a particularly harsh review from Quaterluse. She was, a very
Mm-hmm.
renowned mod reviewer back then. And it was like, okay, that's some harsh but fair criticism. I'm going to step back, and I'm not going to release another mod until I know it's a good mod. So I didn't release another mod until Redania Village
Mm-hmm.
in, I think, June, July, August 2008, or, somewhere around then.
In our defense, we never really got a how-to guide when it came to modding. It was we had the construction set and we were figuring out, so trial and error was definitely a very common method.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, even still, the quality of the mods, like between 2002 and 2004, are very questionable. But there's still some pretty notable standouts, like X-Band's, I think it's X-Band's Mana, which was released in 2003. We've showcased it before. It's that really beautiful looking Bitter Coast mansion that's on its own little custom island. And it has like that treehouse effect and everything. It was featured in my favorite mods series.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were clearly some very talented modders at the time, though a lot of those mods do end up being dirty because we had no idea what mod cleaning was back then.
What's a GMSD anyway?
Yeah, the 72 evil GMSTs, which is not really so much a problem these days. It's very rare to see a mod of those.
Yeah, it's really rare, and I think most mod users know to clean their mods before they play anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I usually try and keep mod cleaning warnings, where relevant in, for mods that we showcase, but I haven't been really keeping up with it too much recently because, it's not really that big of an issue anymore.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, there's still cases where even veteran modders, get tripped up over simple things like light settings, I think is, one of the ones that a lot of veteran modders accidentally, forget about, or, dirty dialogue entries, because you have to, it's a bit difficult to clean those.
Especially with dialogues, like when modders talk, it's like, is it better to edit a vanilla entry and technically dirty it, or should I duplicate it and put it above? Like, we sometimes we just don't know 100% what is the better thing to do.
I think the tool I usually use is TS3 PCD. Is that it?
Plugin conflict detector, yeah.
Yeah, that has the ability to clean dialogue entries. So usually, like, I clean with a TS3 command and also TS3 PCD to clean out both the regular dirty references and clean out the dialogue dirty references.
Though, to be fair, if you want to mod your game a lot and then not have crashes, you're gonna have to learn to use a number of tools to get a nice, stable game.
Oh yeah, and there's no underestimating how useful Morrowind Enchanted Editor is. Like that thing is, that thing has saved my bacon a lot of times when it's come to cleaning mods. Like that thing is great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
TS3 Command, which is the one most of us use, was released in what 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are development tools that were released way after the game was released.
And not by Bethesda. And even nowadays, we still get new tools. Greatness 7's mod packager is one of the recent one. There's a new fork of Test 3 merge that's being worked on. 20 years later, people are still developing tools to mod a 20-year-old game.
Oh yes, and especially MWC Lua, which is, I mean, as you probably saw, like the crafting framework was released yesterday with, Lua, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about mods again because that's something that we both use and adore a lot. But I'd like to go back to your experience with modding and how you went from playing the game to modding the game to Morrowind Modding Showcases on YouTube.
Right. So yeah. So basically, the first, what I consider my first real Morrowind mod was released in 2008. The one that wasn't as buggy and terrible as my earlier releases, and that was Redania Village, which is honestly still a pretty bad mod. I wouldn't recommend it. There are a ton of better alternatives when it comes to Ald Redania these days. I even think Ald Redania Expanded by Princess Stompa is arguably a superior mod. Though I know some people disagree about that.
I quite like R-Zero's version of it, and recently Alice also published a mod for Ald Redania.
There's also Grey North, Ruined Redania by Innumerable.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they do all conflict, so you can't just have to choose one, or have like 50 installs like I do.
I still can't believe you have 50 installs. I got 6, and I feel it's pretty, it's a lot. But 50, oh my god. Oh my god. Does that mean you don't use Mod Organizer if you prefer to have separate installs?
Oh no, I'm manual. All the way, just manual. I've never learned how to use Mod Organizer, and honestly, I'm too old to learn now.
Well, I don't know if that's good advice for people coming to Morrowind and looking at mods. Like installing mods manually, it works definitely, but you really need to understand like what it is you're doing when you're copying a file here or there. So manual install is definitely not for beginners.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's simple. It's easy, drag and drop. What's this Mod Organizer stuff? What are all these options? I don't understand this. I'm terrified.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of modding. Everybody does what they want with their Morrowind, and that includes how you install mods.
Yeah, and well, getting back to what I was talking about. So I think the mods that most people remember me for, the Haunted Tavern of the West Gash, A Hermit's Request, of Justice and Innocence, those were all released, I think, 2009 to 2010, I believe. And actually, A Hermit's Request, they were all sort of my first experiences doing, different types of modding. The Haunted Tavern of the West Gash was my first real dungeon mod, which is kind of reflective, with how little experience I had with building dungeons, because originally that was just one giant 3,000 object interior cell, which obviously wasn't great for frame rate, which is why there's now...
And we're back to the frame rate issue.
Yeah, it's always gone back to that. That's why there's a frame rate option for the Haunted Tavern in the West Gash. It was originally supposed to be played as just one giant interior, but that was not working. That was not working with the vanilla game. It would just... Oh gosh, the frame rate. Terrible. But, yeah, and... A Hermit's Request was actually my first attempt at a quest mod. Like, I had never designed a quest mod before that point. I didn't even really have any experience with scripting or programming, just whatsoever. So I was cobbling together, scripts based off of just reverse engineering some vanilla Morrowind scripts. And coincidentally, there are a few issues there that I still need to go back and tune up. But gosh, I think I was 19 at the time. Like, I know most people, like, they have computer science classes available at their high schools and everything, but my computer science teacher at high school was not particularly good. I mean, he has a lot of qualities. He was a tennis coach. He once stopped a school shooter by tackling them before they could shoot anyone, but not very good at teaching programming or computer science, I gotta say. I basically had no knowledge of scripting or programming by the time I started working on a Hermit's Request.
Well, I'll interrupt you there. I'm so much older than you that I never had IT at school, ever. So the technical class, we did a little electric circuit and we made things out of cardboard. That was fun. My goodness, I even had cooking and sewing in the technical classes. So you can imagine the shock it was for me to look at the script and like, what on earth is that?
Oh yeah, and in retrospect, Morrowind scripting is actually pretty, simple. It's not complicated at all, but at the time it was like, oh gosh, what is this alien language? How am I going to get this to work so that the events I want to happen in game? But yeah, so a Hermit's Request, that was my first attempt at a quest mod, and most people seem to have liked it. It had a lot of very minor details in it that I'm, still pretty happy about. And then in 2010, I released Of Justice and Innocence, which was my first attempt at a true multi-path, multi-ending quest mod. Like there's like at least half a dozen core different endings, I think, to that quest, with about a dozen sub-endings. It honestly went a bit overboard, Morrowind dialogue, doing multiple endings is, it's a bit of a pain, to be honest.
Yeah, just hope that you never have to update it and try to work out and remember all the different branches and the dialogues, because that is a nightmare.
Yeah, you gotta have this condition for, if the player has this, or that, or this, and if you have any holes, it could create a dialogue loop that the player can't get out of.
Fun working with dialogue, writing them, putting them in the CS, troubleshooting them. Fun, all around.
Yeah, and despite that, despite all that tediousness, I still vastly prefer designing quest mods for Morrowind than the later Elder Scrolls games. Just because, I think the dialogue system is pretty good for telling stories, and you don't have to rely on a voice actor, so that's, pretty handy. Now, plus you have to install that third-party silent voice mod in order to get, silent dialogue to actually work in Skyrim. Like, it by default does not support, text-based dialogue at all.
True. I'm not sure that Skyrim players would want text-based dialogue only, though. But that's another discussion.
Well, it's about the, the barrier of entry, right? Like, if you have text-based dialogue, that's a lower bar of entry for people to make quest mods. You can make personal quest mods, or you can make grand, epic adventures. And you can do it as one person instead of having to get like a dozen voice actors.
Yeah, definitely. I think Morrowind hit a sweet spot when it came to modding. Somebody like me who had zero knowledge in IT, scripting, anything, could still work it out and do something. And it, like you said, like anyone could do something and do something decent if they, took the time to test and work out the bugs and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's, one of the things that keeps bringing people back to Morrowind. Like, the Morrowind modding community today is more active than, say, the Oblivion modding community. And I think that's because of that sweet spot. There's more things that you can technically do with less experience and, less resources with Morrowind than you could do for Oblivion or Skyrim.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So how did you go from modding to modding showcases?
Well, even back in like 2008, 2009, I was pretty big in trying to provide feedback to modders, writing up reviews, doing that sort of thing. Like, I think I wrote a review for Feywind's Troubles, that first mod he released in 2009. But
It was my second mod. The first one was a horrendous furniture mod where I basically slap on disgusting textures and made whole sets of furniture. It was fun, but it was really bad. I'm kind of glad you don't remember it. I'm happy with Feyin being my first mod. It's way better.
Oh, yeah, well, it's the first mod I remember seeing pop up from you at the time. It's like 2009. We had a lot of different quest housing mods, that sort of thing. Like the Sable Dragon came out around that time. Thonder was pretty active in the community. He goes by Curzon, I think, these days on the Nexus. Released a ton of house mods, and I think a town mod. And of course, Crank Gorilla was pumping out a ton of stuff back then.
Using all kinds of modders resources.
Yeah, and it is, kind of a joke. The number of modders resources he used in his mods. Like the Aldrune expansion mod that had, giant
chicken
statues and cornfields and everything.
Hot air balloon.
Oh gosh, and then there was his Serenity Island mod, which was his entirely new landmass mod, which was like a 500 megabyte download just from the sheer number of resources packed into it.
But that was very 2000, where I think we were there was no limit to what we would do. So yeah, let's just mod it.
Yeah, that resource-heavy mindset was, very typical of, like, I think the early to mid-2000s. Like, by the late 2000s, we were starting to get more into sort of vanilla-ish type mods, but we weren't quite there yet as a community and as a culture.
Yeah, if you look at, what was it, Balmora Expanded? That was a massive mod, hugely successful, and the last time I looked at it, I loved it, but when I looked at it again, I said, no, I can't anymore. It was those super shiny armor with bright colors, turquoise, and it was over the top in many respects, but still one of the most popular mods of its time.
Yeah, and don't forget the greenhouses. That
Love
mod
those.
was like, that mod was at the top of Planet Elder Scrolls Hall of Fame for years. Well, to be fair, I haven't looked at Balmora Expanded since at least 2014, 2015, whenever we did the last showcase of it. So it's been a while for me too. I just mostly remember it had a lot of shops.
Yeah, really lots of them. My favorite one was there was the armor. Is it Jeremy? You know, the divine armor, the Kinnereth armor, the Dibella armor.
Oh, yeah, is that Jeremy H?
Unsure. And people listening to us go, and these are supposed to be experts in mods? Ha!
Yeah, it's Jeremy McGuinn.
Yes.
That's the name that's here on the Morrowind Modding History database.
Yes, that's the one. And there were more sets, but they never got published, unfortunately.
Yeah, those were pretty neat looking armor mods. Like, they were definitely ahead of their time.
Apart from the fact that they used the Domina mesh.
Oh yeah, I'm not really that familiar with that mesh. That's from the official Bethesda plugins, isn't it?
And yes, then all the female armor version was made with that, with this really large bosom, super tiny waist. I mean, completely ready for 2020 actually. So yeah, ahead of its time.
Yeah, I guess I completely forgot about that since I never used that armor set. A lot of times, because I was really into Morrowind modding, like I would delve through like the old archives on Planet Elder Scrolls trying to find old mods to, play through new experiences, that sort of thing. Things that hadn't gotten a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I would find like these really, really impressive looking mods that had very little attention, directed towards them. Mods like, I think it's Amelian Temple. That was a really impressive landmass house mod. It had some really impressive looking environments and everything, and it was extremely underrated. Like, it had never received much attention. And it's like, these people probably spent hundreds of hours on this, and what, it just never got any attention?
Oh, it's a shame.
Yeah, so, like, I started posting screenshots on, the Planet of Scrolls screenshot page of a lot of these mods, trying to direct attention to them, like, listing information about the mods, like what they require, what their conflicts are, that sort of thing, with a link to the download page, to just try and drive some traffic that way. You could almost call that like the precursor to Morrowind Modding Showcases. Morrowind Modding Screenshots, perhaps.
There was on Planet Elderscore, it was a picture of the day.
Yeah, picture of the day, that's it. Yeah, so I uploaded some screenshots to that to try and just direct attention to these older mods that I thought were particularly worthy of, being brought back into the light. Like, another one was Caldera Mine by Pekka, which actually got re-released in 2020. I still need to play through that again, because supposedly it has a lot of bug fixes in it. And that was kind of like this epic, big dungeon mod. It was really impressive at the time. It might not quite, line up with some of the more impressive, dungeon mods that we have today, but I do think it might have been included in our top 10 dungeon mods list whenever we published that. Don't know when that was.
Too many mods, too many videos.
Yeah, isn't that ever the case? Especially these days. We have, 1,200 mods getting released every year? Like, who can keep up?
Well, you have to. We're counting on you.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
No, none at all. Whatsoever. We're talking a little bit about Planet Elder Scrolls and the Bethesda forums. Would you say that the Morrowind community has changed a lot since then?
Yeah, in some ways, definitely. Like, I mean, like, the methods of communication have changed a lot, and to a degree that has also influenced, like, the culture of the community, I think. Like, back in the Bethesda forum days, the Planet of Scrolls days, communication was almost, I think, a bit more considerate, to be honest. Like, you had a lot of more constructive feedback. I know that there's always some drama on the MMC, going on.
Moderate drama.
Yeah, usually not involving modders, for the most part. At least I don't think so. And the Bethesda forums, of course, had their fair share of drama, too. I'm sure there's some very sordid tales that people could tell there. But yeah, like, mostly, I think the community is actually just larger than it was back in those days. Which is a strange thing to say. Like, it's a decade later, and our community is now larger than it was back then. But yeah, I mean, I think that could also be related to the culture change, is that there's just so many more people in the Morrowind modding community now than there was in, 2012. Back when Planet of Scrolls was still around. Like, I mean, it was still a fairly active community back then. I think we were getting 700, 800 mods a year at that time. That was kind of before things really sort of slowed down with 2014, after Planet of Scrolls died. Yeah, we had a few very slow years there. Like, only 350 mods were released in 2014, 500 in 2015, about 550 in 2016. And, a far cry from the 1,200 or 1,300 mods that were released last year.
I think Part of the reason why there's many more mods, there's Lua that we talked about earlier, and also credit where credit is due. I think Morrowind Modding Showcases really got a lot of attention and drew a lot of people back to Morrowind and Morrowind mods as well.
Well, I certainly hope that Morrowind Modding Showcases has helped, or at the very least hasn't hurt. So, yeah, and I guess getting back to, how Morrowind Modding Showcases started, that sort of the community slowdown is kind of built into this a bit. I started working on a major questing mod in 2012 called Tales of the Ascadian Isles.
Mm-hmm.
And because this was a big questing mod that impacted like a huge region of the Ascadian Isles, I was a little concerned about conflicts and compatibility. At that time, the leading resource for detecting mod conflicts was Imgum, or the what is it called? The Morrowind mod conflict something or other. I don't know the exact name of it.
Yeah, I forgot.
But that was last updated in like 2008. So already by 2012, it was getting fairly out of date.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of as an outgrowth or a feature creep of working on this giant question mod, I thought, hey, I'll just make my own mod conflict database, write down every cell that every mod impacts. This won't take any time at all. I'll just need to download all these mods and, take a look at them in the Enchanted Editor and see what cells they impact. That'll be easy. Famous last words, right?
Will only take a minute.
Yeah, so I was going through basically category by category on both the Nexus and Morrowind Modding history, downloading mods, putting in the conflict information that I had on them into this massive database. And one of the things I was noticing at the time was that a lot of newer mods released in 2014, when I was working on this, was that a lot of them didn't have much in the way of feedback. There was very little, constructive criticism, there was very little positive feedback. A lot of these modders were very clearly very talented, and, checking out their profiles, they started out in Morrowind, and then they were going over to Skyrim, where there was, a lot more feedback, a lot more of that positive, constructive feedback. And it's like, we're losing people to Skyrim! It's like, we can't have that. So, I wasn't really a huge, community leader at the time or anything like that, so I sent a message to Melchior Dog asking if he could maybe put together a thread, discussing the future of Morrowind and what we can do to sort of stem the tide and future-proof Morrowind. Make it so that modders were getting more constructive feedback and more of a reason to actually stick around in our community. So that led to the Future of Morrowind thread, which got a ton of responses on the Bethesda forums, and a lot of the critical consensus at the time was that we needed some sort of YouTube channel, like a channel where mods were being featured, like what they had already for Skyrim, like what are those channels called? I guess Gopher was probably pretty big at the time.
Yeah, already, yeah.
So I thought, I already have a video editor, which I had actually purchased for my Minecraft server. I'll just go ahead and try making videos, showcasing videos from Morrowind. I mean, how difficult could that be?
Certainly not time-consuming.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Okay, first we'll make a giant quest mod. First we'll make a conflict mod database covering all the mods from Morrowind. And now we're just going to start showcasing mods on a weekly basis on YouTube. Like, there's definitely no feature creep going on here at all.
So when was the very first video published on the Morrowind Modding Showcases channel?
First episode was, I think, in late July of 2014. It had gone through a couple of iterations first because I was a bit inexperienced. And if you watch that video, it's a mess. Like, the resolution is a mess, the narration is a mess because I had a terrible mic at the time. like the video quality in general is just terrible. I didn't really know what I was doing, and a lot of those early episodes kind of had that issue. Like after we fixed the resolution problem, so like a lot of the episodes after that had major issues with frame rate, which was actually a pretty big issue with really most of our mod showcases up until 2018, pretty much. But I mean, going back to the frame rate issue, like that's always an issue there.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the big improvements for the videos is when you started using Rit's camera mod, like Ritalia's camera mod, where you could have all these flybys, and that was a lot smoother already in how it was recorded.
Yeah. The cinema cam, that thing. Honestly, I wish we had it years ago, because it is such a quality of life improvement for recording videos. It makes really recording scenic environments, both interior and exterior, a lot easier. And I think that comes across pretty well in the videos and promoting these mods. Like I hope it certainly attracts attention.
Yeah, it definitely is an improvement. But then also at the beginning, you were doing one video a week featuring, I want to say 12 or 13 mods every week.
Yeah, it was originally 12 mods a week. We were airing a new episode every Saturday. So, yeah, it was 12 mods a week, because we had some categories that were every other video. But due to popular demand, we increased to 13 mods a week, making the modders resource category a permanent part of the lineup, because a lot of modders were like, hey, you should make the resource segment a every video segment instead of just an every other video segment.
Yeah, that is an important category.
Yeah, I think one of the first modders resources we recorded was your containers mod, I think.
Huh. Yeah, I'm famous. Don't use my containers mod anymore, okay? There's so many better things, like London Rooks, and Mika also made some lovely containers, and the Wanderer made lovely containers as well. At the time, my motivation was I'm lazy to put those things together in the construction set. I'm going to do it once in Nifscope, and then to make a house, I'll just take my chest that already has clothes in it, and there we go. It was fueled by laziness, that's what it was.
A bit late there. I'm using them currently in a mod that I'm working on right now.
Some of them are not horrible, but a lot of them are not great.
I'm using the books, specifically. Yeah. I've got this giant library, and it's like, okay, Morrowind's game engine is really not designed to handle, high object count interiors very well. So I'm going to have to reduce the number of books here. So I was, scouring for any kind of container book resource that I could potentially use to try and get that object count just down a little bit. So I've got your book resources and that, along with the Wanderers, actually, and some custom ones made by Melchior.
And also books, Geralt had some really neat books.
Oh yeah, and the Wolverine Hall Overhauled, or is that the name? Or
much older than that. That's a new mod, but he had a modder's resource, and it's just books, lines of books, piles of books, different sizes, pretty neat.
I'll have to look that up, because I don't remember that specifically. I remember there were book resources in Wolverine Hall Overhauled, which finally got released, in February?
Mm-hmm. But we're getting distracted by mods again. We're doing it again.
Well, I mean, you get two modding personalities like this in the same chat room. What do you think is going to happen?
I found it. It's stuff book sets.
Okay, I'm going to have to look that up for later, because I could definitely use some more resources there.
I got the link for you. And then, people, I promise we go back to the interview.
Yeah, I appreciate the link, though. Definitely need that.
And you have to understand, like, we have to help modders make mod, because that's how we get mods. So it's really a self-serving thing. Can't find my words.
Oh yeah. Like originally, like I was writing, constructive criticism and reviews for mods, and not just because I wanted more high quality mods, but also because I wanted people to review my mods.
Who reviews? Nobody reviews your mods. Oh my god. Nobody reviews your mods because it feels like I same thing. Like I write the mod of the week section on my blog, but I never put my own mod because it feels conceited, I guess.
Like I haven't even played or done bug testing on my own mods in what feels like ages now.
Yeah, that's the curse. When you're testing mods, you keep modding, installing, you're always in the game, but you're not actually playing.
Oh yeah, the last time I actually played the game was probably in 2014, before actually doing Morrowind Modding Showcases. And, I was pretty late to the party with the whole graphics mods thing, so I think the first time I actually played Morrowind with a ton of graphics mods was probably in March of 2014 with MGSO. Like, that was my first experience with graphics mods, really. I had always ignored them in the past because I was like, vanilla game is fine, I just need more content.
That's kind of what I do now. I go like, okay, intelligent textures, atlas, mop, done. Now give me the gameplay mods.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still, showcasing a lot of graphics mods, a lot more graphics mods these days than I used to, way back at the start. Simply because I've gotten so used to showcasing graphics mods, and there are so many fantastic replaces now, especially SVNR stuff, which is, I mean, it's horrible on FPS, but it looks so shiny.
but not symphony shiny.
Yeah, not Symphony shiny. Did that had a content component too, I think. I don't know if it ever got translated though.
You mean the symphony?
Yeah,
Partly. Some of the quest and the gameplay elements were partly translated. So the English version has the replacers and some of the gameplay and quest and the shop as well, but it's not 100% translated.
Yeah, I never really played much on the content side of that. I mean, it was a pretty big overhaul.
It's massive. For the people who don't know, the symphony has been around for a long time. It's mainly done by Hedgehog 12, and it's, I think you'll agree, it's stunningly gorgeous, ridiculously beautiful, but sometimes a little over the top.
Yeah, it does have that slightly over the top feel, and I think Qwerty Quit has made some replacers using some of the assets from that mod.
HQ creatures, HQ weapons, and I'm not sure for his miscellaneous textures. I'm not sure he used some of the symphony. But yes, the creatures and the weapons have been reworked and are available separately on the Nexus.
But right, where were we?
That you started installing graphic mods.
Right. I was trying to remember how we got off onto this.
I don't know, we thought of a mod and then another mod and then we talked about a mod that took us to another mod and then we forgot the first mod we were talking about.
Yeah, so, right, I was talking about the last time I actually played Morrowind was with MGSO in, like, the spring of 2014. That was the last time I actually played the game instead of just doing modding or testing or, some other thing.
I think I remember clearly on the Discord and on some of your YouTube video comments, people saying, DarkElfGuy, we want a let's play of Morrowind. Maybe that could be an opportunity to play the game, but also give content that people have been asking for.
Yeah, though, to be honest, I mean, that would probably require a hardware upgrade at this point. Like, I don't know, this computer was built... I mean, it was a donated computer, but I think it was built in 2017. And we probably need something a bit better in terms of handling performance to keep the FPS at least 30. Like, you want a decent FPS when you're doing a Let's Play. And obviously, if I'm doing a Let's Play, it's going to be heavily modded. Like, it's going to have everything.
Yeah, I know what you mean. For my permadeath, like I want absolutely everything, because what if I want to be a mage? What if I want to be a bard? What if I'm, poor? What if I'm noble? And I want to have absolutely every mod, so we're close to 1,000, and my FPS is 15, and I've learned to live with that. It's 15, 20, yeah.
Plus, I need to make some custom patches if I do a Let's Play. I want to have Grot, Morrowind Swamp Trees, but I also want Pluto's The Sable Dragon, because I don't care what anyone says, that is still one of my favorite quest mods.
I absolutely adore it, and Pluto did a written interview recently. It's on my blog, and he did say that he really wanted to update the Sable Dragon. So there's hope. We just need to wait.
Oh yeah, and I hope he comes back for the modathon. I hope you pressured him a bit on that. It's the 20th anniversary. We need everyone, hands on deck.
Yeah, let's do that. Actually, let's have a little modathon moment before we forget. Would you like to tell us about this year's modathon, when it's happening, what it's all about?
Well, this year's modathon is, of course, it is running through the same month as always. It's the Morrowind May modathon month. So obviously, it starts May 1st and ends June 2nd. There's that little extra time in case people need to get mods done and
and live in funny time zones.
Yeah, the modded time zones. We go by GMT UTC for the official start and end. So. The official start is actually 12 AM May 1st GMT UTC, which is actually, I think, about 7 PM Eastern Time in America. So we've got, it is once again going to be a free-for-all competition, which means any and all mods will be accepted. We have a weekly random drawing winners. Officially, I think on competition thread, it says we have 5 random drawing winners a week, but actually that's scaled. I try to get at least 15% of participants a week. I like to send out at least prizes to 15% of the participants in a particular week. We have over 500 Steam game keys to give away, so it's not like we're, hurting for prizes here. We've got tons of stuff to give away. So if there's 50 or 60 mods that get released in the first week. Historically, it's actually closer to 100 mods that get released in the first week. I try to send out 10 to 15, maybe even up to 20 prizes, just depending. The point is to have fun and to be rewarded for, doing something that you enjoy, making mods.
Let's be honest, the game keys are nice, but the real prize, those are the achievements.
Oh, yes, and the achievements. We've got a ton of new achievements to give out this year. Melchior has, once again, designed a fantastic new set of achievements. I don't know how he keeps doing it, but he keeps coming up with a totally new, unique achievement design each and every year. And we've been doing this since 2018, so, that's a pretty impressive streak.
Like everything with Morrowind, it is fueled by love and passion.
Yes, and let's see, we have a ton of different new achievements this year. We've got some new hidden achievements. We've got our, traditional category achievements. Once again, this year we have 11 main categories for mods. And, our grand prize winners, which will be announced probably on July 1st. That is going to be the highest endorsed mod in each of 11 categories. That's done for fairness' sake, so that a graphics replacer doesn't have to compete with a quest mod, and an item mod doesn't have to compete with a dungeon mod. Regardless of where your talents lie, you'll have a pretty decent shot at actually winning a particular category and getting a grand prize, assuming you put in the time and the quality effort.
Obviously.
And the new thing that we're introducing this year for the 20th anniversary is theme-based weekly challenges, which, these are optional. Got to be clear on this. These are optional, but basically these are very broad, word-based themes that you can choose to participate in with a set of new achievements and new prizes that you can get. I think week 1 we have Blood and Faith, which is, that's a pretty broad theme. There's like any kind of mod that you can come up with that. Like that could be a gameplay mod, that could be a content mod, it could be a quest, that could be a new item. Something that's related to blood and faith.
Mm-hmm. It has to be blood and faith, or it can be blood or faith.
It's blood and faith. It's that combination that we're going for. That's what unlocks the achievement. And we do have special header images, which are linked in our announcement threads, that you can plug into your mod to just identify it as one of the mods being released for that particular theme. Which, again, because it is optional. Then on week 2, we have Vanity and Alteration. Week 3 is Hunted and Chaos. Week 4 is... Oh, devil. Love and Crime, I think. Mm-hmm. And the final week is Secret and Escape. So those are all pretty broad themes that are kind of meant to just, generate some ideas, like some modding ideas.
So really, basically, whatever sort of mod you like to create, you will find a category, an achievement, a theme that is going to work for you. And so you should just make a mod, or 2, or 10, or 20.
Yeah, we've got quantity-based achievements too, like achievements for releasing 3 mods, and even the 9 divines for releasing 9 mods, if you're just like an absolute machine.
I think that was me last year, but this year I'm just not gonna manage. Not happening this year.
Well, you never know. You say that now, but once once the Chivo addiction gets you, we'll see.
There is that thing. You look at it and go, okay, there's an achievement for making a dungeon mod. There's an achievement for releasing a mod on the 4th, because may the 4th be with you. So if I make a dungeon mod, and there's another one, and then you go, yeah, okay, I can do this, and I should bag that, and that achievement. You go, but what about this one? I'll have to make another mod for it. It's a modding frenzy. It's true.
Oh yes, it's like Christmas. It is actually our Christmas of the year, really.
It is. It really is.
The entire month of May, just one mod after another.
Mm-hmm. In addition to the May Modathon. And I'm going to talk about it right now because it's almost finished. Zero Fox is doing the final touches on the 20 Years of Memory booklet. I keep saying booklet, but it's got 100 pages of people telling, whatever they remember from playing the game. There are some gorgeous illustrations made by very talented artists, and we'll have it ready for the 1st of May, which is very close to the time this interview will be published. So people look for it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, that sounds more like a novella at this point. Are you still planning to do printed copies, or is that still just a digital only thing?
It's going to be digital only because honestly, printing copies, that's when money comes in, and I don't want to have to deal with anything like that. So the PDF will be distributed freely to anyone, and if people want to have it printed out, go for it. Just don't sell it. That's it.
Looking forward to that. That's I'm sure there's going to be a lot of neat tidbits in there.
There's some funny stories, there's some sad stories, emotional stories, quirky stories. That you'll have to wait for it, but it's definitely worth it.
Well, looking forward to that, and I mean this week coming up to May, it's a busy week for both of us, isn't it? Like there's so much that needs to be done leading up to the anniversary. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's the 20th anniversary. So, we're not going to have another one like that. And I don't know, are we going to be around for the 30th?
I mean, I don't know. The way the world's going now, we might all die in nuclear apocalypse.
Oh, God, no. No, let's be optimistic. We will talk again for the 30th anniversary.
Yes, only it'll be Fallout themed.
Wait and see. We'll see. Going back to Morrowind Modding Showcases, do you have any plans for the future? Some special series you're cooking up for us?
Well, I've been toying around the idea of doing a top 15, like, category-themed showcase series, like taking a look at the top 15 mods for particular topics like magic mods. The recent idea I had was fast travel mods, because I did that mod a day showcase last week on teleport tomes, and it occurred to me that there are a lot of just different fast travel mods, and that is something that people complain about to a degree, coming to Morrowind from Skyrim. And we have a lot of different options now. Some of them are more cheaty, some of them are more gameplay based, some of them actually make fast travel harder. And wouldn't it be neat to have all those in just a single video so people can find the ones that actually work for them?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something I'm working on right now. And then I want to do, the top 15 for like stealth mods, magic mods, and just various other potential categories as, we think of them.
Neat. If I'm not mistaken, on your Patreon page, you have polls from time to time to ask people what they'd like to see.
Yes, we do. Though we haven't had one in a while because some of the choices that people make have logistical issues to put together. So I'm still working on them. I think there's last time people voted for a new episode of Morrowind Modding History. Specifically for Wizard's Islands.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to, since, the mod author, the original team lead anyway, is still kind of around, I wanted to try and contact them, maybe do an interview, get some of the behind-the-scenes information about what actually happened during development with Wizard's Islands. It was, really kind of an iconic mod for a long time. It still is, I think, to a degree.
Yeah, it's a massive endeavor. Just reviewing the mod in itself is a lot, and then with all the things that you want to add, I'm not surprised. That's going to be hours of work again.
Yeah, our last showcase of it was in 2017, and obviously we've got better tools now, we've got Cinema Cam, so we can actually get some decent camera footage of Wizard's Island now, which we couldn't do before. And I know there's a lot of interesting history behind the project because it was started before Blood Moon got released. So, a lot of the snow assets that it has originally were custom created. They weren't based on anything made by Bethesda, which is, kind of just a neat little detail there.
I'll say this now because I don't want to forget. DarkElfGuy and the Morrowind Modding Showcase have a Patreon page, and if you like what they do, go there and pledge. I think the first one is $1 a month.
That's basic access to the polls and getting your name in the credits for our longer format videos.
There. So the link will be in the description. Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about the other games in the series because I'm pretty sure you've played them. Did you have thoughts on them? What did you like in each of them? Were there features from Oblivion and Skyrim that you would have liked to see in Morrowind? And were there things from Morrowind that you would have liked to see in Oblivion and Skyrim?
Obviously I've played a fair bit of Oblivion. I made a few mods for Oblivion, actually. I think the last one was in 2008. Fort Boltstein, which was a dungeon mod, and I made a few house mods. The thing I like most about Oblivion is that it has some really great assets for making house mods. End of list of things I like about Oblivion.
Okay.
Yeah, great assets for making house mods. That's pretty much it. I'm joking a little bit. I mean, Oblivion does have some qualities. It has a few good quests, you've probably heard this commentary before from other people you've interviewed. The quests are fine, some of them aren't, but mostly the world design is kind of really lackluster. It is,
especially after Morrowind. I'm sure you were like me when Oblivion was announced. We're like, yeah, it's gonna be Morrowind, but better, prettier, more.
Yeah, and I don't know, do you remember that first gameplay demo they featured? That looked fantastic, and then that wasn't even in the game.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel so cheated. Like, why did they take that out?
That being said, Oblivion does have some redeeming points. Quest, obviously, everybody mentions the Dark Brotherhood, and then Shivering Isles, I think, is a big savior for the whole game, I think.
Oh yeah, but the entire thing is just weighed down with this giant anchor around Oblivion's neck, which is, the leveling system with how everything levels with you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they were thinking with that. Like, Morrowind has kind of like the perfect sweet spot there. Because it does have leveled creatures, it does have some aspects where creatures will level with you, but it doesn't go to that extreme.
It's a nice mix of using level list and then hand-placed creatures and loots.
Yeah, and balancing it so that you actually feel progression. Like, you feel your character getting better and more powerful. Like, you're really weak starting out, like, especially if you're playing as a mage build, like, good heavens. You are basically a punching bag that will die after 2 hits.
Glass cannon.
But, as you get higher up in level, it becomes, like, you become ludicrously powerful, and that's a great feeling that is completely lost in Oblivion.
Alright, what about Skyrim?
Skyrim I actually like a lot more than Oblivion, both in terms of like the world design and in terms of the dungeon design and the enemies you face to a degree. Like Skyrim still has that issue of, well, really that plagues all the Elder Scrolls games, where it's kind of like it's just a health pool that you have to chop at over and over again to defeat something. You have the bosses, I think, in Skyrim. Most dungeons will have, like, that one boss battle, at least.
Yeah. In the last room before the little convenient tunnel that takes you back to the entrance.
Yeah, that kind of, ruins the dungeon delving experience a little bit, I think. Because, like, if you're playing as a stealth archer, you can get through, being very careful, taking out most of your enemies with maybe 3-4 hits max. But once you get to that boss battle, it's like, it's just, chipping away at the health a bit, and it kind of ruins the fun.
Yeah.
But I do think Skyrim has better overall dungeon design, both than Oblivion and Morrowind, honestly. And like, the thing that Skyrim is terrible at is loot placement, because it does depend largely on leveled loot, and it depends, on chestitis, is what I like to call it. The obsession with placing all the actual worthwhile loot into chests. So it's like, don't bother with the barrels, the sacks, the crates, or any of that. There's nothing valuable in there. It's only the chests that are worth actually looting.
Yeah, and don't bother looking, behind every nooks and cranny. No point. You want the chest.
Yeah, no question that Morrowind's loot system is vastly better, which is probably why Morrowloot for Skyrim is so popular. That's a mod originally by Trainwiz, though I think it's been overhauled and re-released by a few people now. But yeah, I liked Morrowind's looting system a lot better. That aspect of being able to find interesting loot in, like, any container, like sacks, crates, barrels. In addition to chests, like, that felt more even to me, and which is coincidentally why I chose that loot system for my Fort Bolt Sign mod for, Oblivion. Which did turn out to be a bit of an issue, because apparently, like, people got too much loot in Fort Bolt Sign, and it just completely upended the economy of the game, so it's like, oh well, it's like the game just wasn't designed for that kind of looting system.
It's so hard to strike a good balance.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is, especially with those, games that are overly dependent on level, loot lists, and, like, Oblivion and Skyrim definitely all.
Have you tried the Elder Scrolls Online at all?
I played the beta, and I played in 2014. So my opinion on ESO is that it's actually a pretty good game, on the actual game aspect. From what I played, gosh, 8 years ago? Wow, 8 years? Really? It's been 8 years? But yeah, so yeah, I had some good experiences with ESO. I think it has, some decent single-player experience, like questing environments. It doesn't force you to socialize for every quest that you go on, which is good because I'm pretty asocial. It's like, people, run away.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually played since 2014 because, we had Morrowind Modding Showcases, and guess what? There's no time for any of that anymore, so, I mean, they've added quite a bit since then. I have no idea what all they've added, but it's quite a bit.
Well, there's the whole Morrowind DLC. Is it called a DLC? I guess. So the island of Vvardenfell is there now.
Oh, yeah, that you've reminded me of the sore point that I have with ESO.
What was it?
It's Morrowind. It's definitely Morrowind. It's just it's the mainland. To a degree, I think it's Vvardenfell. I mean, see the name? What is that doing there? Why does it look exactly the same?
Because they had to make people go, yes, that's the 19 as I remember it.
But it doesn't make any sense. It's a completely different time period.
I know. But yeah, I agree. I think also, let's be fair, we love Morrowind so much. We know it so well. I don't think that any rendering of Morrowind would ever be as good as the Morrowind we have in our mind, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that way a bit about Skywind too. It's like, it looks pretty, but it's never going to live up to my Morrowind.
But the good news is that we can still play Morrowind. So it doesn't have to be the same, because if it was the same, then why bother with it?
Oh, yeah, but going back to ESO, like I played through the Aldmeri Dominion mostly in the beta, and I thought that was a pretty fun experience. But when I got to, what is it, the Ebonheart Pack? Is that the name?
Yeah, with the, yeah.
I was so disappointed with the Morrowind mainland. Like, Tamriel Built has such a better, more creative vision of the Morrowind mainland than what the ESO devs have. I was just hugely disappointed with everything I found there.
I think once again it's because we know Tamriel Rebuilt. Like we already have a reference. I haven't played ESO in a long time either, and Morrowind worked less well for me than the other provinces as well.
Yeah. I mean, I played a bit in the Daggerfall, whatever it's called too, and it's like that was a more positive experience for me. Like, Aldmeri Dominion, Daggerfall, the Ebonheart Pact. No, that is not the Morrowind mainland. I refuse to accept that. No, thank you. I'm going back to Tamriel Built. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, we're a tough crowd. I think we're a tough crowd. All right, Morrowind. It's been 20 years. What can we hope for the years to come? Can we hope anything? I mean, 20 years is a pretty good run.
Well, I mean, as we keep seeing, like, there is no limit to the heights of Morrowind modding. Like I mentioned before, we got the crafting framework yesterday from Merlord, and that unlocks huge new potentials in Morrowind modding. And we've been getting this kind of thing over and over again the past few years. Like, things that weren't possible in the past are now possible, and I kind of think the sky's just the limit for what we might see in the future.
I agree. There's already so many things. Like, if anybody had asked you, do you think we could have that in the game? Because I know. No. It's hard-coded. It's not happening ever. And now it is happening. And of course there's OpenMW that opens a lot of options as well. Multiplayer, virtual reality. Yeah, I think Morrowind is not done with us.
Yeah, and speaking of things that didn't used to be possible, like imagine telling a martyr in like 2005 about Ashfall and how Ashfall has dynamic, procedurally generated branches that just spawn underneath trees, and these aren't hand placed. Like there's no hand placing it. These are just procedurally generated underneath trees. And try telling that to a modern 2005 when they're just going around manually hand placing everything. They would think you're insane.
Definitely. And then you take your teapot and you pour the water and you see the water in your cup. And if you put a lot of water, the level is really high. But if you put a little bit, then there's just a little bit of water in your cup. Like, no, impossible. And yet.
And don't forget to scrub your pans in the water, otherwise they'll get too brown.
Yeah, the amount of things that are chucked in that mod is just incredible. But I think it's true for a lot of the mods that we see. It's just there's no limit. Maybe yes, hang on. The 4 gigs of memory, that's a limit we can't break just yet. But apart from that, between the modders' creativity and ingenuity and the new tools that we get also, many things to look forward to.
Oh yes, definitely, and I'm hoping to get a new MWC Lure, sailing and fishing mod to replace the old sailing mods that we had before. Like, I would love that, to be able to just sail the seas and, go fishing, just, off the ship a bit.
Sailing, fishing, riding. I think riding mods would be good. Because we do have a few, but Morrowind script is a bit janky here and there.
Yeah, we really need that MWC Lure implementation. So, Merlord, I know you're working on a bunch of stuff already. Get on that.
No, don't ask Merlord.
On top of your workload.
Don't ask Merlord. I've already asked him to do many things, and his to-do list is completely full. But you can ask Null Cascade. You can ask Seth, Greatness 7.
I can't ask Greatness 7. He's still got that animation overhaul and that new cinema cam that he's supposed to release.
True. We can't ask Null because he's updating MWSC almost on a daily basis. Well, I'm sure somebody will start like, come on, people. This is DarkElfGuy and he wants a sailing mod. Can somebody make it happen, please? Oh, yes, nobody's replying. Oh, it's just you and me, but... hopefully somebody has heard us.
Well, hopefully. I mean, we got a lot of new programmers in the community these days, so, there's an idea for you.
There we go. Who knows? You got a whole month to make it happen for the main modathon.
Yeah, I mean, how long would it take to code a sailing mod anyway? Like, that'll take a minute, right?
Yeah, it's not that much. I mean, the Gwar Whisperer was done in a month. And it's full of features. You can play fetch with a Gwar. What? You can play fetch with a Gwar in your game. You can pet it and it sort of purrs at you. Okay, we'll have to stop. Simping on mods. But I think that shows just how inspiring and inspired the modding community is.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we'll get at this modathon. Like, hopefully a new dungeon mod from Sealoff. I'd love to see another one of those.
Pressure. Yes, let's hope so. Maybe Necromancy mod. Necrocraft is being updated with a crafting framework. It might happen this month.
And Upper Jack's Vampire?
Yes, yeah, Vampire, that's the name of the mod. That could happen soon as well. So many things to look forward to, and here we are. A while ago we were complaining about how old we are, and we're just asking to get a little older to get more mods to play with.
I mean, it's the 20th anniversary, people. Like, just, get to work and make everything happen. Give us all the shinies.
We want it now. All right, we will stop behaving like spoiled children a little bit, but is there something that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Well, let's see. Well, I guess we didn't really cover the things that I've learned from modding, I don't think.
Go ahead.
So, in my case, I've learned almost everything actually from modding. Not cooking or baking. Like my baklava recipe has nothing to do with modding. But everything else, like creative writing, interior design, programming, we talked about that a bit before, but basically all that is stuff that I originally learned for the sake of making mods. I did not do creative writing before, I was like, I want to tell stories and mods. So that's when I started trying to develop my creative writing skills a bit. And, scripting, programming, that sort of thing just came about as wanting to, make my stories become a reality. And obviously with interior design, that's pretty self-explanatory. We do a lot of interior design in content mods. Like that's like, what, 70% of the work? It's kind of a skill that you develop over time.
I wish I could decorate my house, well, my flat, the same way I can decorate any house in Morrowind. It would be amazing. I would never have to tidy anything because I would have scripted sorters everywhere.
Yeah, and no messes. Like, I just have piles of papers related to Morrowind Modding Showcases everywhere, and stacks of books that I still need to sort through and put onto the bookcases. Gotta have them in alphabetical order and everything. It's just a bit of a mess at the moment.
Yeah, so Morrowind has taught us a lot of things, but not to enjoy tidying our own houses.
Well, there's never any time. There's all this Morrowind we've got to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. That takes a lot of time. It has been taking a lot of time, and it will continue to take a lot of time.
And I think the last thing I'd mention here is that, I am working on a new mod, the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages, which is, actually the behind-the-scenes, footage of me working on that is available on Patreon at the $5 tier. Not to shamelessly self-plug there. But basically, it started out. It was actually supposed to be a house mod originally, just to get used to the OG data and Tamriel data asset packages, because I haven't used those before. But now it's turned into this huge Mages Guild. There's also a giant overhaul of the Radon egg mine, which is like right next to it. And right now I'm thinking 15 to 20 quests. A small number of quests.
Yeah. Enough quests to make it worth building a whole guild there.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you have to write up some, decent characters. I'm thinking probably 100,000, 200,000 words of dialogue. It'll be done. It'll take a week, tops.
Hey, May Moddathon, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, probably not, but we'll see.
The good news is there's a May Moddathon every year. So you miss one, you catch the next one.
Exactly. May Moddathon 2090. That's the goal.
All right. We'll be there. Hopefully, we'll be there. Do you have any more striking moments, like memories of when you were playing the game? Something that, really, really stuck with you?
Well, I related this in the 20 Memories of Morrowind book when I submitted my memory.
Oh, yes. I remember I read it. You made me not cry, but that made me emotional because I was right there with you. But go ahead, please share it with us.
Well, yeah, that was my first time playing the game, and I was told go to Balmora. So obviously I did the exact opposite of that. I went in the opposite direction, or what I thought was the opposite direction, and I started on the road to Hala Ode. Along the way I had a wizard fall out of the sky. I think almost everyone has some nostalgia about that experience. Just this wizard plopping down right in front of you. I actually tried to reload and save him, but of course that isn't actually possible.
No, like even if you manage to catch him, like activate him, to talk to him, and all he says is, I don't want to talk about this, goodbye. So you have no other option than to close the dialogue and let him fall the last centimeters to his death.
Yeah, but you do get a nice Clovian fur helm out of the deal, so it's not all
Extravagant
bad.
robe, gorgeous, gorgeous Colovian fur helm, and an enchanted long blade.
Yeah, I think it's a shock blade. You know, it's actually extremely useful early on in game because that actually lets you hit undead, so you can then loot the nearby tombs. But yeah, so I was on the road to Hlaa Ode, and you know, it took me a while. It took me a while to get to Hlaa Ode. It was like evening going into nightfall when I got to Hlaa Ode for the first time, and you know, it was my first night in this strange alien world, and I remember just looking up at the sky, and you know, Morrowind has those unique constellations that are actually, you know, based around the birth signs, I think. Like, there's the mage, there's the warrior. Like, if you actually look for them, you can see them in the original skybox. And there were the twin moons of Secunda and, what's the other one?
Master.
Yeah, Master, that's it. Yeah, I remember looking up at those twin moons on the shoreline outside of Hlaa Ode and just, you know, fully getting immersed in this alien world. Like, I'm actually on a different world right now. This isn't, you know, this isn't Kansas anymore, or in my case, Missouri. Minor detail, you know, not to get into the Kansas versus Missouri, you know, debate. But, yeah, you know, that's the moment when I fully became immersed in Morrowind.
Just looking up at the sky.
Yep, I mean, I think I probably related better in text, you know.
It was still good. It was still good to hear it.
That's honestly one of the strongest memories I have of Morrowind. Probably one of the, you know, one of the only standout memories I have from, you know, 2002. Really, that entire year, basically. That's one of the strongest emotional connections I have to that entire year.
What did you do in 2002? I saw the sky with 2 moons at night, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's what I remember.
And you know what? That is a great way to end this episode. So people can reminisce about their first time that looked at the sky in Morrowind and how they felt.
Yeah, it is. I mean, honestly, Morrowind skies, even back then, were just spectacular sights, I think.
It definitely is. DarkElfGuy, thank you so much for talking for nearly 2 hours. Oh my god. And we really tried to stay on point. We really did, didn't we?
Well, that was always doomed to failure, I think, especially when it comes to mods.
Definitely. Looking forward to talking to you again. There's the May Modathon happening. This will be fun. Yeah, this is gonna be a great year for Morrowind. I just know it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, with the crafting framework and everything else that we have available these days, I'm hoping to see some just more truly amazing mods and new experiences that possibly we've never really imagined before. I know what Safebox has that motorcycle mod coming out. So
Very neat. Finally, a good modern writing script, and there we are talking about mods again.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention Starwind.
Oh my god, yes, Starwind. Total conversion. It's been years since we had a total conversion, and maybe the first time to have one that is so complete and still being developed. There's new content being added all the time.
Yeah, I think there's, about 18 Starwind mods that have been released this year by different people that are just releasing mods for Starwind. It's like an entirely separate modding platform.
And I know that a while ago, Ignatius organized a modding competition for Starwind mods only. So hopefully there'll be another one this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of content there. I really need to play more of it because I've only, you know, briefly touched upon it in our top 10 video, which finally got released last week for 2020. Like, you know, a year and a half late, but it got there eventually.
We're good. Alright, well, I think it's very obvious that there's a lot that could be said about mods, the past mods, the present mods, the future mods, the mods that we want. We'll have to do this again, DarkElfGuy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Until then, take care and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.